4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
This show is brought to you by The Makery, the podcast network for makers.
Hey. What's going on? Welcome to Knife Talk. This is a podcast for knife makers, knife enthusiasts, and anyone else who wants to know about knives, talk about this, that, and the other thing, fool around, have some time occupied. I'm Geoff Fader from Fader Knives. With me, as always, is Mareko Momasi Fire Arts, and the leader of the pack, Craig Lockwood of Chop Knives. Guys, how's everybody?
It's been another... I can't believe a week has flown by already since we last spoke. The time is just flying by. Summer will be over soon. It's been not a very productive week yet again, but very, very busy. So work has really started in earnest on my new shop in the new house. Power is in. Walls have gone up. It's starting to take shape to the point of where I can start moving some machines, I think, within the next sort of 2 weeks, and maybe start working from there, which is going to be handy because the kids start school in 2 weeks, so we'll drop them off at the school and I'll be able to go to the new shop to work because it's closer. So yeah, so that's all going well. Still waiting on packaging, which seems to be never ending. But I did get a shipping notification today, so I know they have actually sent it now, which is good. What that does mean is I now have a solid date for releasing my folders, which will be I think it's the 3rd, September the 3rd.
Right around the corner.
Which is 2 weeks. So they're all done. But I'm waiting for this packaging, and I want to do some promo shots and all the rest of it first. So that's good. September the 3rd. And I think I'll launch them on the show like I did before with the previous knife, but I launched on the show. Seemed to go quite well. So what else has been going on? I got very drunk last night, and I've had a hangover today for the first time in probably 2 years.
What did you drink?
Certainly over a year. Only beer. But the local village, they had a band on, and I went and we stayed late, and I felt this is how bad I was today. I normally get up first with the kids in the morning, and Amy gets some work done, that kind of thing. I couldn't, so I stayed in bed. I was still in bed at 1 p.m.
Whoa!
When Amy showed up with a McDonald's and brought it, which I ate in bed. That's how bad the hangover. That's how disgusting I was. It was But it's the best thing when you have a hangover. It needs to be a McDonald's, unfortunately. And
but look at that love and understanding, though. My goodness.
I know it's been a long time since that's happened. So yeah.
Okay. What is her standing order for you? Obviously you're out.
Yeah.
She goes to McDonald's. She knows what you want. What is she getting?
It's just a Big Mac meal. It's just Big
Mac
fries.
Months ago, you were giving me all this fritz about Big Macs, and your wife knows that's what does the trick. Everyone knows that the Big Mac's where it's at.
Yes, yeah. When you're hungover, you just need that filth in you. So today,
isn't that a Royale with cheese?
It's just
that's right.
Water.
That's right. Exactly. Royale with cheese. Where you are?
Or is that the quarter pounder? I can't remember.
Quarter pounder with cheese or something, isn't it? Yeah.
Is there close
so today,
McDonald's to you?
Probably about 30 minutes. Yeah, about 30 minutes.
That is crazy.
So a cold McDonald's in bed, which is the perfect hangover cure. I'm now functioning. So,
did she take the kids with her too?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Obviously. Yeah.
What did they have?
she left the kids with their dead father.
Yeah, I'm just passed out. And she just left the kids, creeping around. They didn't have anything. She didn't go specifically to get me McDonald's. She went out to do some bits and pieces, and the McDonald's was on the way. So on the way back, she.
Perfect.
So I'm now feeling a lot brighter than I was. Today I found an old hard drive of mine. So I'm tidying up a bit here in this little studio. I found an old hard drive, which I haven't seen for years and years and years. Plugged it in, and I found stuff from sort of 10 years ago, 15 years ago, all on this hard drive. So it's been like a treasure trove, just looking through all this stuff, which has been quite cool. So that's what I've been doing.
Of zip disks, or is it actual
No, like a USB hard drive,
Okay.
Yeah, but the last 2 hours I've just been looking through old pictures and photos and stuff. It's been pretty cool. So it's livened me up slightly, but production-wise, very, very little. I said more to do with getting the shop ready, the new shop. which I'm really happy with. So it's going to be almost 3 times the size of my current shop, which is swing a cat here. So yeah, so I'm happy with that. Mareko, your week, how's it gone?
This last week, let's see. I've been focusing more on making Damascus. So I've just kind of been working on that, honestly. And we're having another heat wave. I think it's not over 100 yet, but we're going to be over 100 again today, and I think tomorrow as well.
Yeah.
So I'm actually only in the I'm wearing flip-flops right now. And so I'm only here to record, and that's it. And then I'm going back home and taking it easy with the family and trying to stay cool, because the last time I got overheated was not good for me or anybody, honestly. So that's what I've been up to. When just real quick, when Geoff said leader of the pack, I was ready for that 50s song, like the Shirelles or whoever does it. Motorcycle. Something else though, something from last week's episode, and Jeff's question about selling the knife to the bad guy. I couldn't figure out why it is. I just, like, deep down I felt like I couldn't do it. And I think, and a point that you brought up, Craig, is like, for all I know, the people I'm selling knives to right now are potentially those bad people. But it finally hit me what really bothered me is knowingly selling a knife to a bad person versus, I don't know, I highly doubt that the people I'm selling my knives to are going to pay that kind of money when they could go to the thrift store and buy a knife for $2 if they really wanted to do like a murder of passion or something like that.
The question, when I originally designed the question, and there are tough questions and honesty episode segment will happen, and I have fucking good ones this week too.
Nice.
It was meant to be. It wasn't exactly, in my mind, I'm thinking, let's just keep it vague as possible.
Sure.
Cheats on his taxes. When somebody says, like, I know this guy, he's a bad guy. I've said things about bad people without them being, murderers. That's a guy I don't trust because he lied to me or something. So I was trying to keep it vague in terms of, like, how do you balance that out? And maybe badness is really not a thing, but really what it came down to is we don't know our customers anyway. So I mean, we don't know if they're tax sheets. We don't know if they're, we don't know anything about them. So it was like a very, blah, blah, blah.
So just looking at the chat here. So again, for those who may be listening on Monday, we're doing this live and we have people watching live and they're sort of chatting in the chat room here. And Adam Davis, long-time listener and first-time live.
Nice.
Welcome, Adam. Welcome to the show. Double cheeseburgers where it's at, says Aaron McVeigh. To do steel toe flops. That's what you need, says W. Crumblade Smith. Let's have a look. This is Aaron McVeigh again. Do any of you guys and gals make your buyers sign a waiver releasing you of all liability? So that's quite linked to what you were just saying.
100%.
Do you really?
Really?
I have terms and conditions. And when people pay their deposit and also their final payment, they are agreeing to those terms and conditions. And part of that is me not being responsible.
Wow. That makes a lot of sense, I suppose. Yeah. Hadn't thought
terms
of that.
use is what I call it.
Actually, I was talking to Jonathan Porter. I talked to him a lot, and because he's in Florida, and Florida is like the national bird is the lawyer. It's like, I mean, all they do is sue people down there. He had to have clause. I don't know if it was clauses or something, but it was based on. It was a lot of it had to do with the heat treatment, in case the knife broke. It was like, it was more about that. But I mean, he's like, Florida is a very litigious state, probably the most litigious state, one of the most litigious states in the United States. So he's very conscious of like that stuff. But I'm surprised because I mean, like, you can buy a Wood stuff and you don't have to do terms of service. You don't have to do a contract with them. You buy whatever you want.
Yeah.
But no, it's probably very smart. So they make them sign and then you hold on to it, or?
No, so by completing the transaction, they are agreeing, and I have a link straight to all the terms of use and everything. It's very easy and accessible for them to read if they really want to read it. And then when they pay, they're locked in.
Wow. Makes sense. Makes sense. It's sad that we're
Not
in this
hidden or
world.
anything. It's not hidden.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
very obvious. Like
Yes. Yeah.
by making this payment, you're agreeing to the terms and use, link to terms and use, blah blah blah.
Hmm.
I've never had.
Wow.
Have you ever had anyone say, "Well, I don't want to sign this"?
No.
Some people don't do
Never.
that. Some people are just like, "I'm not fucking doing this."
Those
That's
Texans.
fine. I'm not selling them a knife.
What was I going to say? I wonder. I have to talk to my business partner Tony about. We pay liability insurance, and I wonder if there's
Sure.
something covered in that. But I'm not 100% sure. That's not my department.
Yeah. 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 That was a good point, Aaron. Geoff, your week. What's been going on?
Dude, it's been like I've been waiting for like biopsy results, and I have the results for that. We'll talk about that later. And then I was working on kind of catching up on stuff. I had one customer who was on like the bottom, at the end of the list, getting ready for the new stuff. And my time frame of finishing knives is like drastically gotten shorter. So like I'm at like 2 to 3 months behind, which is great. It used to be like 6 to 9. It was crazy. And all of a sudden, I was doing this knife for this guy, and I said, "Oh yeah, I'm ready to deliver it. I'm ready to send it off on Friday." And he goes, "Do you think you could save it and for my birthday? Save it. I don't want to see it until my birthday." I'm like, "Yeah, sure. When's your birthday?" And he goes, "December." I was like,
Oh, jeez.
"What the fuck did I do this one for now?" I should have known. But it was funny and it was great and it was everything's cool. But I was one morning. I get up early, help my wife get out to work, and then I'm doing paperwork. I'm going to start to do more kind of working out before I walk the dogs. And I'm on Instagram, obviously, in the morning early, like 4:35. And I see this video from the Food Network, and I went absolutely out of. I went crazy, and I went crazy because it was another one of these Food Network, and we're not going to say names. I'm not going to say names. The Food
I
Network,
have one of his knives.
the Food Network and all these people who do these food shows, these cooking guys, the Food Network comes up to these personalities and say, "Hey, I have this great idea. Let's do a knife sharpening tips quick video." And they're always bad. And they're always bad. And usually one of the worst parts, and I'm bringing a hot take back. If you put on a video or a short class or anything, 101 or 102, as in like you're conveying that it's a college level course and you're not associated with a college or a school of learning, knife sharpening 101, knife sharpening 102, what you're doing is you're trying to make the watcher think that this is a core curriculum situation. 102, 101 are like when you go to college, it's the core curriculum, the foundational shit. Then you get these videos and these guys are saying stuff that just makes no sense. Not only did it make no sense, it's as if they tell these guys, "Hey, we need to do this quick video. Can you do it?" And they're like, "Yeah, fine, let's rush it through." This particular guy, he couldn't even get the stone in the thing, and then he's using words. He couldn't even figure out. I mean, he was hitting it with his fist, couldn't figure it out. Obviously, they just ran down to like the hardware store to get it. And then he was using words like you have to find an even angle. He was just using wording, and then you stroke it one side for 10 times, and then you do the other side for 10 times, and then when you're honing it, you hone it. It's like none of them are using words or expressions that can convey what they're supposed to be saying in an easy to understand manner. And then when you look at the comments are always like, "That's awesome. Where can I get that stone?" But you don't know how to use the stone because the guy didn't make any sense. So I went a little bit crazy, and I kind of understand where they're coming from. And this also kind of stems from a conversation I had with Ilya Alexiev and Full Blast podcast in regards to who's responsible for this content that comes out on the TV and who's ultimately responsible. And I thought maybe this would be a good conversation for you guys. There are no people on the Food Network or any of these channels who have any, they don't have Lynn Ray on the payroll. They don't have Master Bladesmiths on the payroll to say, "All right, this is how you do it. This is how you should say it." So they get these cooks who know how to sharpen a knife. Honestly, I mean, you can cook food with a cut tin can top. I mean, let's not get crazy here. And then and then they say things that make no sense. They say things that it's not even at the basis. At the basis, they're always bad. And I just went crazy, and then I took everything down only because I thought I should be saving this content for Knife Talk. What do you guys think about these, food videos with these chefs who claim to be experts on all these things, but clearly they're not?
They're like a never-ending stream of hot takes. It's a bunch of shit they don't actually know.
I don't know. I don't know.
Or armchair quarterbacking, maybe, because they're talking outside of their realm of actual knowledge. And I think it may seem nice in the short term, but ultimately, like you said, nobody's learning anything. And I don't know. You had to have watched the whole video, but the whole purpose of it was to drive people to some show or something that he's promoting at the very end of the video. If you want more like this, come check out blah 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 at such time on such channel. And it's like, aha, this is all bullshit to drive people to your stupid show.
But at the same time, it's more about these are hastily made, and there's nobody in the background who says, wait a second, what do you mean find an even angle? What does that mean? What's the goal of when you're putting your knife on an angle on the stone? What's the goal of doing it 10 times? Why are we doing it 10 times one side and 10 times the other side? But what are we looking for? There wasn't none of that. And it was just very much along the lines of they do this almost like every few months, and they rotate them all out. And it's as if they're just like no one. When I wrote that show that got pitched for the Food Network, part of it was intended to be educational, but from a very simplistic level. Even when I did the Epicurious video, I didn't want to talk over people's heads. And I wanted to talk to people very plainly. I don't think there's any reason to pretend like I know more than other people. I'm more interested in getting the very, very simple idea out there. You get the feeling like they're trying to push one past you, and it's like consistent. It's consistent.
Yeah, but I haven't seen that particular video, so I'll have to go back and see if I can find it. But I think when people don't know much about a subject, they'll just throw out these buzzwords that they've heard. And again, they don't know the meaning of them, the reasoning for doing these things. They're just copying. They're just mimics. They're just copying what they've seen without the knowledge behind it to know what they're doing. And you see that a lot. And I think particularly with TV networks, they now have, everybody's using Instagram and all these kinds of things as well. They're not putting the same thought into that as maybe they'd put in for a show. It was very different with what Geoff did with Epicurious. I know you had production guys and you wrote it and it was scripted and, a lot of effort went into that. But when anybody can just pick up a phone and just start talking into a camera, if they don't know what they're talking about, they're just going to rely on mimicking what they've heard from others, and it's obvious when you see it. It really is obvious.
But it's crazy because here's the funny thing about Epicurious. I was very careful to the only thing I did or said that was people were breaking my balls about was I said integral instead of integral, which Jerry Fisk says the same thing. So go talk to him as well. No one ever said to me, with the exception of a couple people who were kind of really out of it, that I said something that was inaccurate. And that was very important, that I was making things not inaccurate. And I could have said anything. They would never have known. I could have said anything. I had to correct a couple of their edits because they put everything out of order to the point where it would have made me sound like I'm not talking. I know what I'm talking about. But like none of these people on these TV shows don't care. And when I was talking to Ilya, he was blaming, he don't like Forge and Fire. He, instead of blaming the watcher, who's obviously, you can't deny it's got 12 seasons. That's a success, regardless of whatever you think about it. Shows a success, but he seems to blame the production people, and it's like they know that they're making money on these, with the viewers, and they're able to generate ad revenue. So it's not really their fault. Now, in regards to this show, no one, when I wrote my show for the pitch, they said, well, it's too masculine. Well, fine, whatever. I don't give a shit. I give your answer. But they get this dude on to fight with his whetstone, punch his whetstone, punch his whetstone.
Really?
And it's like, oh, dude, he was like banging on it. They couldn't even edit that part out. They should have said, just fucking play it out. We'll cut out you like trying to force it in. He's banging on it.
Yeah.
And it's like, it made me, that's what made me angry. It made me angry because it was just like, I can't believe these motherfuckers, threw me out because I'm too masculine. Meanwhile, this dude's getting in a fist fight with his whetstone, talking about your even angles. It's annoying.
I think
So this
you
is
bring
down.
up a
This
good
is.
point.
Go on, Mareko. Sorry.
I was just gonna say real quick. You bring up a good point about advertising, and a lot of people get frustrated with Forged in Fire because they're like, oh, it's not accurate, or no, that's not. It's like totally unrealistic, which is true. It's all true, but the reality is, what they're not really trying to sell an education or anything outside of advertising space. What they're really key on, what they're really trying to do is create a space where eyeballs are watching, and then in between on commercial breaks, people are also seeing those advertisements and and they're making money from it's the same thing for Food Network and even magazines. That whole thing with that chef is, they got a little bit of, rapport. They get to build rapport and trust with their audience so that the audience come back and see more of their posts, more of their advertising, get their magazine, all that shit. Watch their shows, all of that. It's all about advertising space and selling advertising space.
So then so here's the question. Here's the ultimate question. And I was arguing with Ilya because I felt, number one, he's a smart guy. I caught him slipping at the end. Just, you can listen to that episode. I caught him slipping in. He was fooling around at the end. He was talking so much the whole show that I caught him slipping at the end. How do you go about convincing? You have to take control of those shows in order for you to be able to have the right information out that you think is going to be more valuable. How can you possibly do that? It's almost impossible. How can you say, all right, Forged in Fire is nonsense. I'm going to do a real show, and then we're going to pick it up, and that they're going to pick it up, and we're going to make more money, and people are going to be able to really understand what we're doing. Unless you're bringing your own money in, I don't think it's possible.
Yeah, your own money, or you've got something about you, such as a huge following. If you're bringing a following, they'll let you. Yeah, that's why they have all the TV shows now. They're all like celebrity TV shows now, even like game shows. They have celebrities on game shows because they bring in viewers with them as well. And it's like, you see it on Instagram where people have lives with somebody else. People tend to do it with people with a bigger following because you're introducing yourself to a bigger group of people. And it's exactly the same with TV, I assume.
It's interesting.
I will say one thing I saw Chopped a few seasons back when they were in Seattle. They had Bob Kramer on as a guest expert judge, and the whole thing was about sharpening a dull ass knife and using it to break stuff down, and actually in a practical application. And he was literally walking up around them and checking out the knives, and he's just like, nope. And these people were so proud of themselves, and then they're like leading into it about their sharpening technique and all this kind of stuff. And Bob was walking around saying, no, that's not good enough. You can't move on yet. And I thought that's one of the few times I've seen that, though.
But that's the ultimate story that we all know, that most cooks don't know about. Most cooks can get away with getting those $20 Dexter knives, and they'll make a perfectly beautiful meal. Half of them don't know anything about it, which is fine. At some point, it's annoying. I don't give a shit if this guy wants to, beat up his whetstone on TV. You can punch it all you want. I don't give a fuck. But at the same time, it's just like, at what point do we say, does somebody say, hey, let's have something that's based on reality, or they need too much, like, you're interrupting our brisket talk, or fat rib talk,
Yeah, but who are the audience for that? A factual show where everything is perfect. There's going to be a very limited audience to that. Something that's entertaining, they bring a few celebrities on and all the rest of it. It's just middle of the road stuff, but it is what, as Mareko said, it will get eyeballs watching.
Speaking of which, in regards to these cooking competition shows, I think that it's more annoying when there's this critical judge of other cooks, and then the same person who's making up stuff about knife making, about knife sharpening. I think that's what annoyed me. It was like, this is a guy who's the judge on the show. He talks all shit. He probably talks shit about the guy's ribs. P.S. That's not a masculine show, right? Brisket and ribs are not, whatever, dude.
I think this is all, Geoff. This is bitter. It's all about you feeling bitter about the show not being picked up because, as you say, you're way too masculine. I think you're just too bitter about it. The problem is,
I'm probably too bitter. Which I accept. I'm not crazy. I'm not, But at the same time, it's annoying because they rotate every single one. I would say that the only chef that they should get on to do knife sharpening would be APL. Adam Perry Lang, because the guy that actually went to he's the only chef that's gone to the New England School of Metalworks to take classes with Nick Rossi. It's like he could do it. He's got more skills than anybody else in terms of like understanding what's happening, as opposed to saying, find your even angle and stroke it 10 times. What the fuck does that mean?
Adam Davis in the chat has said about that Gordon Ramsay video, which I think most of us have probably seen, where he's using a hone and he's just smashing this knife into this hone, and it's just,
dude. I think he's awesome. He is awesome, but that was hard to watch. You're right. Yeah. Where he's just like scratching it. It was almost like he was like trying to. It was like he was like trying to be a DJ or something on the fucking hone. It was ridiculous.
Yeah. Crazy. Anyway, shall we take a few questions, which we call?
Sure.
Hey, man, can I ask you a question?
And I'll do the first one. So this has come from Instagram, and this is from Charlie Lionheart. If you could go back to the beginning of your career, would you rather have the tools you have now or the knowledge that you've gained? Interesting question. Mareko, what do you think? The tools you have now or the knowledge you've gained and had to start over again?
I think the knowledge. Tools are easy to come by. Knowledge and wisdom are not. And skills are not.
Yeah. Okay.
That's all I got.
Geoff.
That's a layup answer. I mean, I one thing was a layup answer is who gives a shit about the tools? It's like, I tell you one thing. You guys make fun of my age. I wouldn't trade to be 10 years younger for anything. I have so much more enlightenment than I did 10 years ago that I wouldn't trade my age I wouldn't trade 10 years for anything. I'm in such a better place mentally than I was at 37 that there's just no question. So I would totally
60 suits you, Geoff. You wear 60 very well.
I'll be 37 next week.
Wow, next week.
Wow, happy birthday.
Thanks. It's coming.
Mareko's fishing for gifts there, everybody.
Audible credits. That's all I want. Just Audible credits. I do nothing but listen to stories. No, I'm just teasing. Don't get me anything. I hate birthday presents. Seriously.
Yeah. Don't get me anything.
Yeah, I say that to my wife says that to me, and I'm like, yeah, right, as if I wouldn't.
Yeah.
So where are we? Would you rather have the tools you have now or the knowledge you get? Yeah, it's an easy one, like you guys have said. It's got to be the knowledge, because tools you can buy quickly. Knowledge you can't buy quickly. It's something that you need to earn and gain, I suppose. Okay, let's talk about one of our sponsors.
Combat Abrasives makes the world's best abrasive belts for knife makers. Available in any size at unbelievable prices. Go take a look at combatabrasives.com and get 15% off with promo code KNIFETALK15. Do it now.
Knife Talk 15. That's the promo code. You can get 15% off your whole order. Head on over to combatabrasives.com and use the best belts in the business. Okay, let's take another.
Some knowledge. I was just going to say really quick, the Golden Kalani, Mr. Andreas Kalani, does a lot of kind of informative content in collaboration with Combat. So you can check that out on Combat's Instagram as well.
Cool. Grateful Knives. Geoff, he wants to know about the state of your arsehole. We'll get into that maybe.
Whoa. Jesus Christ, Grateful Knives. Don't you think that's a harsh question to ask? Jesus.
Poop hole polyp biopsy, right?
Yeah. Do you want to take this next question, Mareko, from the Canton Cutler?
Sure.
Guys are very invasive.
He says, question, I'm new to the dangerous game of buffing. I buffed some hardwood. It go green. What compound do I Yeah. What what compound do you use for hard woods and stay well? The Canton Cutler. All right. So I'm guessing if he's using a green buffing compound, it's probably why it turned green. I don't know any other reason why it would have gone green. What do you guys think?
No, not with wood. No. Yeah, I assume he's using a green. I use a pink and a yellow compound. I'm not sure of what grits or whatever they are, but they just work for me. And I've also got a special one which I use for plastics. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. I try to keep my buffing wheels as clean as possible. So you guys have laughed about this in the past, but I will put them in the washing machine a few times before they give up. To the delight of my wife. But yeah, keep them clean. As I said, I think I'm using pink and then yellow. And it seems to work well. But yeah, I don't know. What the reason it's going green? Maybe I see a lot of people on buffers as well, really lending the weight in and pushing their weight into it, and I think that's two things: that you're going to build up a lot of heat, the more chance of the buffer grabbing as well, because these things, we all know they're dangerous as hell. I'm very, very light with my buffers because I mean, but at that point you've done your hand sanding, and you're literally just putting a sort of sheen on it. So I never sort of lean in hard to it, and maybe that's what you're doing, which is why you're getting more of the sort of the residues stick into the piece because of the heat. Maybe, I don't know, but yeah, just go lightly. Make sure your wheels are relatively clean, and I don't see why you really have a problem. Do you buff much, Geoff?
Yes, I've recently been doing. I've been using compound more recently, and part of it is because I like the finish. I like the finish, especially on the spine, the connection between the wood and the spine. I love the finish with the Corby bolts and the brass hardware, and I'm using the lightest compounds I can with a clean wheel. Yeah, I would think that the green comes off because of the green compound. And then what I do afterwards is then I'll kind of like wipe everything down with acetone afterwards, and then I'll do it again with another clean. I'll do another clean if I see any kind of smudging. I'll clean it off and then give it a buff with like a clean wheel, and then that's usually pretty good. I don't do a lot of buffing. I've been starting to do it more often now.
Tim Brown in the chat has just said you need to use different buffs for wood, plastic, and steel. Yeah, so maybe that could be a problem as well. You're using maybe something that you've used for steel, and you're using it on the wood, and it could be maybe opening up the grain a bit more, and then allowing that green to sort of flood in, maybe.
And combat abrasive sells not only the compounds but the different wheels. Like I have a different wheel that's strictly for Kydex, for kind of glossing up the edges of the Kydex. So definitely, and they have a lot of information on. They have a lot of information in videos. Actually, Andreas Galani did a video on how he buffs his Kydex, the edging, and it's on Combat. So Combat's got good resources for all that. I think they make their own compound. They got dudes like pouring greasy compound into molds and shit.
They make their own stuff. Yeah.
Well,
yeah. They try to make as much as they can. Yeah. In my experience, I have tried to use the green compound for buffing handles, and it stained the shit out of it. I did find that either like a Johnson's paste wax or like a camellia oil will help kind of break that down, and it'll help clean it off. But if there are any kind of open pores, porosity in the wood, it's going to take it on. And especially if it's a lighter wood or even like a spalted or something like that, it's going to take it on. It's going to stain it. It's not going to come back out. I have a black polishing compound that I use for darker woods that I'll then follow, sometimes depending on the grain, I'll follow with the white and then the pink. Otherwise, if it's a lighter wood, I use the white buffing compound and then follow it with the pink. Or sometimes I just do the pink, which is quote unquote the scratchless compound. I don't know why it buffs things up so nicely, but it does. And that's my move.
Do you use different wheels for different compounds, or do you just use?
Yes,
you do.
100%. Each color compound gets its own wheel for sure, because you don't want to get those mixed up. I was going to ask you really quick, Craig, do you ever worry about like those buffing compounds and those abrasives getting into your underpants? when you wash in the washer.
Oh,
You-
phew. It's like,
Right. I see what you mean. I see what you mean. No. So I use an old pillowcase and I put the buffing wheels into there, and then it goes through. Yeah, yeah. I'm fine. I'm not squeaking when I'm walking. I'm fine. I'm okay.
Shiny.
Do you want
balls
to take that
walking around.
next one, Jeff?
okay, this one comes from Peter Does. I'm thinking about starting a knife selling business. I'm going to work with several makers at first. Which end of the market makes more sense to target initially? High end and full custom, EDC, bushcraft, pocket. Is there any money? Is there money in it? So basically, guy wants to be like a broker or a knife selling guy who deals with other knife makers and like sells for them,
Yeah.
and wants to know who to focus on. And is it worth it?
I think it's going to be. I mean, if you're doing that, you've got to bring something to the table. You've got to have an audience ready. Otherwise, why would a maker come to you and potentially give you a split? So I suppose you've got to look at the audience, who that audience are, and what they'd be looking to see. Yeah, I think it's as simple as that, really. Who the audience that you already have, what are they looking to buy, and maybe start things that way. But it's something that I've never sort of considered, so I don't really know that much about it. But you need to have something to bring to the table. You can't just be some guy who's like, oh, let me try and sell your knives, because quite often the maker will probably have a bigger following anyway. So, yeah, I mean, Mareko, I mean, you use third parties sometimes, don't you, selling your knives? How does that sort of, and why would you go with these people as opposed to others?
Yeah, so I think the goal, like especially when I first started out, I was brand new to the the custom knife making scene. I had no name, even though I've been doing work for Bob Kramer for 3 years. Nobody knew who I was, and so I relied on the retailer to kind of get the word out there that it's kind of like they're vouching for you in a way, because especially as they have more experience, build reputation with a collector base, and those collectors look at them kind of like a gallerist or as a private shopper, kind of in a way for some of these retailers, and so they trust that this gallerist is bringing in quality work. And so that's kind of how I got my start. And I think that's a good reason to go with a retailer, especially if you're new. There is also an opportunity, even if you are more established, to broaden your horizons, generally speaking, just to because that's the other potential that a gallerist offers, is that they will present your work to a different group of people who may not even know you exist. And even if that's 10 knives that get sold because of that, that's 10 knives. Like that's nothing. And but I think the hard part of becoming one of these people, one of these retailers or gallerists, is who are you? Why does anybody trust opinion on knives? And then developing relationships with makers, so the makers trust to, because there's a other side of the relationship is where I as a maker need to trust that this gallerist or retailer is going to represent my work fairly and properly in a good light, so that it reflects well back on me. And if they're nobody, no offense, but if nobody knows who you are, like, why is anybody going to trust, either potential buyers or makers going to trust to buy work from you or sell to you?
Well, I mean, he's obviously thinking about it. It's not, we're not at
Right. No, but
he's
these are
not
something
calling you up
he's
saying, give me
asking
your
what to think
knives.
about.
It's like, I personally think that the juice isn't worth the squeeze, because if you think about it, how do you deal with the cut? All of a sudden, do they give you, like, I've worked with dealers where they buy my shit direct. And then in my mind, I think, so that means they're adding a percentage on top. Like, I'm not giving them a wholesale price. And then you either do that, but then all of a sudden it's just like, well, why would I do that? Why would I buy with a additional price as opposed to going
Coming
direct to
direct.
the person?
Yeah.
Now, with that said, you get guys like Eating Tools is probably one of the best in the game. He represents the cream of the crop. And I have a feeling that most of those people also don't want to deal with the sales part. Maybe they don't want to deal with the back office part. Maybe they don't want to deal with the emails and the nonsense. Maybe they want someone to handle it over to them. So maybe it's worth 20%, 30%. I don't know. I would think 30% would be high for a small time guy. But at the same time, it's like, if I'm selling other people's knives, is it worth it for me to also be responsible for shipping it and taking the pictures and marketing it and all these guys that, Abe over at Eating Tools gives everybody the first class treatment. I mean, these guys get awesome pictures. All the knife makers who use Abe are just like, oh my God, he takes the best pictures. And I mean, it's not nothing, so it's like,
he crafts a really beautiful narrative for each of the makers too.
He's a good dude.
And you brought up a very good point, because if you are not good at that side, like your conversation with Nick Anger, he does. Even my own conversation, he doesn't necessarily always like working with customers, and I think there are a lot of people like that, and they can look at working with the retailer as a business relationship, like they have a business partner in a way, kind of like you have Tony. They can look at this retailer potentially as a business partner. Yes, maybe you sell at a discount, but that's their cut for doing the other half of the work.
Right.
It's like outsourcing like the admin part, and that's the cost for it. Their cut is the cost for their service. Yeah. Yako is in the chat, and we had a chat with Yako a couple of weeks ago. He's come up with another crazy excuse why he needs to go. Last time it was Alex Steele dropped a new video, he's going to go. And this time he's talking about some sort of vet that's coming into his shop. Yako, you can't leave us again, not in the lurch again. We'll check in on you later, just to make sure you're still here.
I think we should ban him.
We should just kick him out.
Yeah, you're banned. You're banned. You're leaving us again. You shouldn't just see the problem with Yako is you announce these things and you're expecting us to feel. I mean, if you got to leave for a party, you don't say anything. You do the Irish goodbye. We would never have known. But you say, "Oh, I got to go. I got this Russian ex-Spetsnaz vet that we need to know that too." It's just like, what do you want us to cry for you, Yako? I mean, come on, man. You're here or you're not here. And if you're not here, don't announce it, because we're going to go after you. So if you're not here by the end of the show, you're banned. Period. That's it.
Banned for life.
Banned for life.
Let's talk about another one of our sponsors.
Knife Talk is sponsored by Even Heat, the manufacturers of the finest heat treat ovens available. To find your next oven, go to evenheat-kiln.com.
Even Heat's best in the business, and we can get you a discount. So rather than go to evenheat.com, if you go to knifetalk.net/heat, that'll take you directly to Soul Ceramics and their distributor of Even Heat. So you can spec out. You can get like the KH model, which is the 120 version, or I didn't realize the KO model reaches 2,400 degrees, whereas all the others is 2,200. So you can spec out exactly with the solid state drives and all the rest of it. Spec it out with Soul Ceramics. They'll get you all squared away, and we can get you $75 off and free shipping in the US. So go to knifetalk.net/heat, or just hit the link in the description and you'll be able to get yourself that discount. So Geoff, do we have any sort of big talking points for this week?
We have tough scenarios, and I'm looking for answers, honest answers, not phony answers.
Okay.
And P.S. Yako, I was just kidding. Just don't, step off the ledge. Everything's fine. You're not banned. Just, I know you're listening to this on Monday and you're thinking to yourself, oh my God, what am I going to do? You're fine. Just, it was a joke. So tough scenarios was a big hit. I got a lot of messages in my DMs in regards to last week's tough scenarios, questions asked. We actually talked about contractors and how contractors can go over budget. And I got a listener feedback from Joshua Endies, who said, listening to today's podcast, I work for an electrical contractor. I would say reputation is a big deal for a contractor. I basically said that contractors are the only business in the world where you can go over budget and not say anything until the end. It happens all the time. And so he said, I would say reputation is a big deal for a contractor. It helps you get more work, and it makes you, if you make deadlines and don't go over budget. If we do go over or mess up, we eat that cost. But what gets us contractors blood boiling is if the customers have someone to make changes in addition with the expectation that it won't affect the final cost or the deadline, the nerve of these assholes. Ha ha ha. So basically, he's saying that people make changes at that. I'm sure that people make changes and then they think that, why are you charging me for this? But I mean, the first 3 letters of the word contract are CON, man. I mean, let's just not, we can never, ever, forget that. Just don't forget that. So thanks for listening. And so I'm going to do a little warm up. We're going to do a warm up question. I'm going to answer these questions. We're going to mull them over, and I want real, honest answers. I don't want phony answers. This is your chance to pretend like people aren't listening or watching. This one comes from Grateful Knives. One of your friends,
who's in the chat today?
Yeah, he's in the chat. I listen. I know I see him there. One of your friends needs a new liver, and you're the only one who can save his life. Would you do it? Now, here's the catch. You need to rehab for 6 months prior, and you can never drink alcohol again. But there's a big chance that the host that you're giving your liver to has a drinking problem. What do you do?
Oh, wow. Well, first off the bat, I don't think my liver's in a good condition today. Well, let's give it a few weeks. Let it sort of regenerate a bit and heal itself.
6 months. You get 6 months. You got 6 months to rehab it.
Okay.
So no booze for 6 months. You give your liver, and then you can never drink again.
I think if you this is a weird one, because essentially anybody could do this. Anybody could become a donor, and you could do this to a complete stranger. But if it's for a buddy, yeah, I think so.
You would?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, if it's
right now.
Yeah,
I'm surprised.
Particularly right now, because I'm one of those days I'm never drinking again kind of thing. But yeah, of course, yeah. If it's somebody that I'm close to, and it's going to preserve their life, yeah, it's not going to kill me. It's yes, I'd say yes. No.
Mareko, what do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I was just trying to think what the different tiers of friends, and I think I definitely have friends that I consider family or like brothers to me, and those guys it would not be a question.
Whether so they never drink again, never drinking again.
Well, I'm fine with not. Who needs to drink anyways?
Of course.
Look at you.
Well, I mean,
you're the king of taking breaks. You do great.
Take breaks. No problem taking breaks. Is that? Have you both finally answered?
Yeah, I think that's my final answer. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm officially saying you're both phonies. That's I am saying no, really? And I'm going to give you a story why. I had a family member a long time ago when my kid was just born who was in need of something, a part. I'm just going to leave it vague. They needed a part. And I was trying to be magnanimous, and I said that I would consider being a donor. And this was someone who wasn't young. This wasn't a young person. This was like, probably just let's keep it at that. When I came home, my wife said to me, well, don't you think, you have a child. Don't you think you should try to be as, this is a part that if something goes wrong or something that you're going to need, your health is part of the responsibility of the family. And then another family member said to me, you're not doing it. It's like, you're just not doing it. You have a young family, you have a young child. You have to think about your family. This is someone who blah, 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 blah. There's a million donors out there. You have to think about your family. And I ultimately was just like, I felt like shit because I should have kept my mouth shut. Ultimately, it wouldn't have happened, but it was this. I was put in this position, and I didn't think about it.
Yeah,
and I ended up obviously not. But it was one of those things where I was like, I never even thought about that. And my wife was like, yeah, you did a nice thing for this person, but it's just like, you are, if something goes wrong on the operating table, or if you have further health problems down the line because of this, you have a family.
Okay, I'm going to bite back now because you just said that your initial answer was the exact same fucking thing that Craig and I said. But then you had somebody wiser than you add to it. So now that you've shared that same opinion, I'm rethinking that. There are millions of donors out there. So I don't think our answer was not disingenuous.
No,
it was lacking depth of understanding.
Yeah, that's called phony.
So we're not phonies. No, we're not phonies.
But also, can I just make a point? Make a point that
no, you're not phony. You're not phony.
Boone Parrott in the
You're
chat
not-
has also just said that you can't actually donate a liver unless you're dead. So the whole thing is moot. The whole thing is moot.
All right.
I got a
well,
follow
all
up
right.
question. Are you guys organ donors?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like say you die for
Yeah.
who knows what? Yeah, okay. Me too.
Yeah. I think here in France that you are unless you opt out as opposed to opting in. But yeah, I adopted in anyway a long time ago. Yeah.
So you guys changing
Okay.
your answers now?
No, I'm not.
Damn.
But
Damn.
then again, I mean, we've just heard that we can't with a liver. So let's say it's something you can do, and if it's someone that I'm close to, I still would. It may lessen the quality of my life slightly, and for my immediate family, but it's not a huge amount. You know, it's not taking 20 years off my life.
Okay.
It just makes it a bit more uncomfortable.
Okay. All right. That was a good warm-up round, guys. I give you a round of applause. Once again, you did a good job. This one comes from Luke Bright, and this is gonna be one. So Eric Carnival said, "I can get you a liver. I know a guy. Use Knife Talk 10 and get 10% off." The people in the chat, if you're in the chat and you're doing zingers, I'm stopping everything for the zingers. If you watch us live on Fridays, you can have a chance to be congratulated. That's the line of the day. Eric Carnivale, give yourself a round of applause. Knife Talk 10 gets you 10% off a liver. He knows a guy. All right. This one comes from Luke Bright, and this will be there'll be a few tiers of questions that are going to happen. So the question is you're offered $1 million cash to build one knife, but it's the last knife you ever get to make. Do you take the money?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I've got so many different stuff that I'm into that I could quite easily fill that time back up by doing something else that I love doing too. So yeah, take the money and without question.
Wow.
And I think that would be for most things. If somebody said, "Would you stop playing guitar for $1 million?" I'd say yes. If you would you stop, whatever, watching TV or whatever it may be, because I'm into so many different other things that I could easily fill up that time and that sort of gap in my life. Yeah.
Oh,
why not? At my age, of course. Yeah. Jeez.
So I'm very impressed with the both of you. $1 million, you can never do it again. Wow. Yeah. No question. You didn't even think about it. That's awesome.
Yeah. Easy.
So I get to think about these over the week. So I said no. I said no for this reason. I would have to dissolve Fader Knives. I would have to, some of the money's going to go to taxes. And then I got to split the money with my business partner. And then we have to figure out something else to make. And then I started thinking, I thought maybe we could make something different. Maybe it is worth it for the $1 million. And I'm thinking, I don't know. I don't know if I could do it I think the $1 million sounds like a lot, but maybe it isn't. I don't know.
Maybe.
Listen, you guys surprised me. God damn you. You're both. I give you a lot of credit for saying yes. I give you a lot of credit. I thought that the phony answer was my answer of just saying no. But you guys did a good job.
Damascus making for me.
There you go. Look at you.
I can make
That's
plenty
it.
of
$1 million.
making mini knives. Yeah.
$1 million. R.W. Crumb Bladesmith says, "I'll just make bottle openers and steak turners from now on." Jacob Norris says he's going to start making axes. And Adam Davis says Fader can make Fader forks, which I would do. All right, now here's the amended scenario number 1. Okay. The Food Network starts. This is my favorite one. The Food Network's or any kind of food, content provider starts an audio content network and offers us, Knife Talk, a slot 5 days a week.
Jeez.
Wait a second. Let me finish. 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. And let's just pretend like there's no time difference. It's not like 1 o'clock.
We just show up.
Let's forget about that. This is a morning drive TV radio show. We'll get 5 days a week, 6 to 10. We'll get a producer. We'll get writers, audio engineers, guest bookers. So basically, we just roll out of bed, right?
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
That's what you guys do anyway. Let's face it.
Don't lump me into that. Whatever you do, don't lump me into that. So guaranteed, $200,000 a year. 5-year contract. Okay. No, we're not going to get fired. They're not going to dump us after a year. 5-year contract, $200,000 a year. And it gives you enough time to spend maybe a couple hours a week in the shop, but not enough to have a knife company. Would you take it? $200,000, 5-year contract. We have the staff. You don't have to do any button pushing. You got the writers. You don't have to do any, we could, people could give us bits and we could say yes, no. We could have baba booies and we could yell at interns and we could have a real morning radio show, $200,000 a year, committed 5-year contract, $200,000 a year. Take it.
I'm in.
Wow.
Six
I
till
have one
10
caveat.
sounds pretty sweet.
Go ahead. What's the caveat?
Craig gets to make a playlist of music that we get to play.
No problem. Yeah, 100%. No problem. That's it. There's no problem. No problem. So you taking it too?
I'm in.
Oh, geez Louise. Wow. Everyone's taking it. I'm taking it too just because I want to be in radio. Amended scenario number 2. That was easy.
Okay.
You guys did a good job. They make a show for a broader audience. Somebody makes the Food Network. So we got money. We want to make we want to make a show. Can't just talk about plunge lines and buffers. It's just not, this is, we need to grow.
Yeah.
They make an amended show for a broader audience. And there's a chef, a chef personality involved, whatever, you name whoever you want. Maybe there's a comedian and only one of us. One of us has to leave Knife Talk. Let's just say you're the one who has got to leave Knife Talk. You do it. What would you do? Same situation in a year, 5-thing contract. You got to leave Knife Talk. What do you do?
So you still get the money.
Grand sounds like a weak contract.
Yeah. So wait there. You still get the $200,000 if you leave, and you guys get the $200,000 for carrying on. Or do I get nothing?
The person who gets the show. One of the 3 of us gets invited to be on the show. The other 2 ride the pine on Knife Talk.
Right.
Do you take it?
Good
for you. This is real.
I think
surprised.
so. This is
I thought so too.
It's business. It's
God, you guys are not phony. I would take it too. And the funny thing is I would think. So what's the reaction? Let's just say you don't get picked. Maybe you're the man out. What's your reaction?
Nothing but peace and love.
Damn.
I would be fuming. Absolutely.
Oh, you would be
I'd
fuming.
be steaming. Yeah.
You'd be fucking fuming. You'd be so fuming. You know what I thought? I thought you guys were going to do the phony answer saying I would never leave. I would stay with Knife. You guys have done too much. And what I would say is I would never interrupt or be impediment to your success. You, Mareko, you, Craig. I would never do something to be an impediment to your success, and I would encourage you. But if it was just me and the other 2, either one of you on Knife Talk, I would go out of my way to whip that show's ass. I would do whatever it took to whip that show's ass. It would be my new, with peace and love. I'm encouraging you to go ahead, get that $200,000, get your money, man. Go ahead and you and Gordon Ramsay go fuck it up with whatever, Jim Norton. Have a good time. I'm turning to the other guy. I'm like, congratulations to him. This was great. Now we have to fucking turn the fucking burners on. That's what I would do.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah,
so it's still an audio show. It's not a audio video.
No, it's radio show.
Okay, it's still audio. Okay, yeah, then it's still
All right, you guys did a good job. I'm surprised, and I'm surprised you guys were as honest as you were. I figured that we're gonna have some phoniness, and there was no phoniness.
We didn't have to think much either. We were just like, show me the money.
Yeah. I'm glad you guys are. Listen, I'm glad that we all have a price and it's surprisingly low. That's what I'm surprised with how low everybody is right now. $1 million never make a knife again. I'll take the money. $200,000 for a 5-year contract. I'll take the money. You guys are. I appreciate how hungry you guys are. Do it. P.S. That will be the next thing. And it makes me realize, just thinking about it, I come up with these, now that this is more fun than sometimes, answering questions is fun and all, talking about buffering wheels is like, okay, great. But this kind of conversation, I would say, and we could, this would be like after show talk. This is the natural progression for these content companies. besides the fact that you have YouTube shows, I'm convinced that podcasting is getting so big, and we're seeing a lot of numbers in terms of like more podcasts are starting. You're going to see more companies who are looking for more broader audio, especially in the culinary world and stuff where people are neither time occupied, like makers.
Yeah. Agree.
Last question. You guys went through this so fucking fast. You answered it in an honest way too fast.
If there's money involved, the answer's yes. So before you say the question, there's money involved, the answer's yes.
Now the next week is going to be sex or something like that, or drugs or stuff. I got to figure. Now I know that money's involved. Well, the banana thing, I got a lot of messages about the people, taking one banana up the ass over 1,000. And it made me realize that there's probably a number. So last week, if you listen to last week's episode, the main question, the dumb question was, you're locked in a room and there's 1,000 bananas there, but you can't leave unless you either eat the 1,000 bananas or you stick one up your ass. There was a lot of like questions like, well, does it have the peel on? And and then everybody, we all agreed, we take the banana up the tailpipe. Yeah. But if it was 100 bananas, I think that some of us would be like, I can do 100 bananas.
No,
100 bananas are still going up the tailpipe.
Yeah. Have you ever eaten like more than 2 or 3 bananas in a day? You are stuffed up. So I think you'd be capped at maybe 10 a day.
Okay.
And if you're doing 10 a day, and if it's 100, that's still 10 days of your life.
That's my thought.
Stick one up there and get out the room. That's what I say.
You can't eat 10 bananas in a day?
Yeah, you can, but what I'm saying is you'll be stuffed up. You'll be, it wouldn't be pleasant. And if you do that for 10 days in a row, geez.
50 bananas.
I'm saying
50 bananas or one up the tailpipe?
At the tailpipe. I think 8. I think when we get to 8, that's when a decision needs to be made.
Oh my god!
Oh my god! I give you 8 bananas or one up the tailpipe. You're taking the tailpipe?
I think so.
You're my fucking hero. God damn! You're the most honest person of all time. I never thought. I could eat like 4 bananas a day easy. 8 bananas. Like, what are you talking about? Get me out of this room. I'll be done with these 8 bananas in no time. 8 bananas or one up the ass, and you're not even going to contemplate eating those bananas?
Well, I just think it's not just the 8 bananas you need to eat. You could physically eat the 8 bananas, but a few days later, you're still going to be feeling the effects of that.
You don't think you're going to feel the effects of the banana in the tailpipe a few days later?
They're soft. They're soft. You're fine. I think 8 is my number.
You're my hero. You are
my number.
8 is your number. So 7, you're going to eat the 7.
I'm going to eat the 7.
You're the man. You are the fucking best. Craig Lockwood is the goddamn best. God bless you, Craig Lockwood.
Daniel Rogers in the chat says, I think Craig just has an object up the bunghole fixation.
This is
I didn't come up with this. This is Jeff's question. He's the one who's been.
I want to say to anyone in the webs on watching us live, if you don't show respect to Craig Lockwood, I'm banning you, because that was the most honest answer you're going to get. 8. That's it. 7.
And if bananas start showing up in the mail, I won't be happy. So please, no sending bananas my way.
Fucking 8. I love it. I'm so grateful to you for being honest like that. I'm so grateful to you. I would eat 8. I think my number's like, I think we're getting into 35, 50. That's when I'm just like, okay.
Wow.
35, 50.
I feel like I could eat 100
20. You could eat what?
I feel like I could eat 100 bananas
in one day.
No.
You don't want to be in that room
you have
for
to
a day.
do it in one day.
You don't want to. I mean, you want to stay in that room though. I don't think I want to stay in that room for that long. Like, I want to do like I could.
Well, if you think about it, the bananas are going to last what, a week? So you got 7 days, 6, 7, 8 days to make it happen. I don't know. I feel like I could do that.
Let's
they get softer over time.
We've done enough. We've done enough. You've done enough. I'm saluting you. You are my official hero. God bless you. The last question comes from the 13th Floor Forge. After that one, I mean, ain't going to get much better than that. But 13th Floor Forge sent me something from his college ethics class. You're involved in a 2-car crash on the way to work one morning in which you accidentally hit and kill a pedestrian. Okay. As you get out of the car, you're intercepted by a tearful woman who seems to think that she hit and killed the pedestrian herself. She's not sure why she thinks she hit the person, but she's convinced. This woman, she thinks she knows she hit this person when you really did. There's only you, the woman, and the person you hit on the road. There are no witnesses. You know that whoever is deemed responsible will probably be sent to jail. What do you do?
Go to jail.
Craig, I don't want you to answer first because I'm really hoping for. I mean, you're like the star of the show right now. So you're answering. I don't know if you were answering last, but I need you to breathe on this for a second.
Yeah, Mareko, you go first. Go on, Mareko. Go on, Mareko.
I would go to jail. I couldn't. How could you live with that?
But even if this woman was just like, you didn't do it, it was me.
Yeah, I couldn't live with that.
Okay, I've thought.
Go ahead.
I wouldn't go to jail.
And here's
why.
My favorite person on this planet.
Because you know you've done it. You've got that guilt anyway. So there's no getting away from that. You've got that guilt anyway. If this was pre-having kids, I'd say I'd go to jail. Now I have 2 little ones. I think I would let the other lady think she's done it. Still feel terrible because you know you've done it, and it was an accident, and and all the rest of it. But I just think, I having kids would change that answer for me, and the fact that I have kids, I would let the other person
take the heat.
Take the heat.
You
and I know that's a terrible thing. I know it's a terrible thing, but I also think being removed from my kids and them assuming that I'm a murderer for the rest of their life, it would be torture. Yeah, that's what I'm going.
You clearly haven't seen I Know What You Did Last Summer.
No, I haven't. Is that a similar predicament?
Yeah. So it's like a group of kids out partying. One of the kids accidentally dies, and they all band together to cover it up. And then a year later, somebody's coming after them and killing them all.
Oh wow!
Because they know what you did last summer.
Ah.
I number one is I would when the police came, I would definitely say it might have been me. I can't be sure. Like I have to I can't just, pretend. Like I have to be as honest as possible. I would have a hard time just not these go to jail for this stuff. When you're like not covering shit up and you're honest, usually like that's the grief is probably worth the grief and the feeling of I would have a hard time not being honest about it. That would be real hard for me.
Okay, I'm gonna turn this round on you now, Geoff.
Wait, now I just wanted to make an announcement. You failed 13th floor's ethics class, but you're a hero to me because this is what I wanted. What I wanted out of this thing was I wanted you guys, all of us, to answer as if we're not thinking about people listening or what are the ramifications of the things that I say. That's the true honesty, is this feeling that you can say something without, because most of these podcasters, they're so full of shit. I call them flea bags because they say these things that they hear or they repeat. And then there's not really honesty. There's just like this, these saccharine bullshit. I want to be inspiring to everybody. I mean, God bless you, peace and love. But I mean, it's just like, let's be clear. You're probably a piece of shit, but when the mic's on, you're not. So I just wanted this. I thought I was going to get you guys with the money and the podcast, but I'm very proud of the both of you.
I'm going to turn this round on you, Geoff.
Go ahead.
Okay,
do it.
So you are in your car with your daughter, who is now driving.
Yeah.
She's driving, and nobody else is around. She hits a pedestrian who then dies. Nobody around. The police show up, and they say to you, "Who is driving?" What are you saying?
I think that we would both be. I think that she would, as a sensitive person, I think that she would have a real hard time with the action. I think she would have a real. She's a very, very. She's like her mother. She's very like cut and dry. There's not really a lot of room for hemming and hawing. I think that she would not. I think that if I'd taken the heat and I'd gone to jail, I don't think she would be able to handle it.
Right. Okay.
Like most parents. So I mean, obviously, it's something you don't want to get involved in. And actually, the closest thing that's ever happened to that was we were doing some driving tests. We were doing some practice driving pre-permit because after pandemic, they closed the DMV down, and she had a hard time. When she should have gotten her permit, she wasn't really allowed to based on how they allowed people to come in.
Yeah.
So I was like, let's just go to the school parking lot. No one's going to be down there. It's not a big deal. And we were driving around. It was very, controlled, and she did a very good job. But there was one part where a police officer comes screeching past us, and Hillary and my kid was just like, is she coming? Is he coming for me? I'm like, no, he's not coming for you. Don't worry about it. But then after he left, I said, let's just switch spots now. So, I mean, the guy had already passed, but I was like, let me just switch spots now just in case.
Yeah.
But in regards, I mean, that was just like, she was really nervous that she was going to get pulled over. So
you'd let her take the heat. Okay.
Oh yeah. Oh, I think once again, it's just similar to the last one. Like, as long as everyone's like crazy honest, I think that in the end of the day, I think that you got to do that.
Yeah. Okay. But, I mean, let's
talk. Before we do that, should we do this again? Is this a bit you guys like?
Yes, I like it a lot. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's
right.
good.
So I'm going to keep money out of it because we all know you're because we're all a bunch of whores, really. I mean, that's what it comes down to, which is fine.
I didn't
problem.
We all have last week.
You didn't, but you did this week. So it's like you have a number. It's like, I mean, if you got a number, I mean, it's like everyone's got a price.
Context. It's not
by context. I'm like, all right, so, you're half a whore. I mean, I don't know. We're not like bracing it week to week. We're not basing it week to week. I mean, it's just like we all got a number. So
business opportunities.
I know, but that's what Julia Roberts said. It's a business opportunity. I know all about it. I'm with you. Go ahead. Sorry, I was interrupting.
Okay, let's talk about knives again a sec. Tyler Wilkins has sent in a question via Instagram. Hey guys, I know Geoff has said he charges by the inch.
Yeah, baby.
I wondered how you arrive at that pricing method, and he struggles with pricing all the time. So we start obviously talking about knives. Geoff, I think when we talked about charge by the inch, I think we were generally talking about sharpening, really. But I mean, do you do that with your knives? Do you charge them by the inch for your knives?
This is one of the things that Tony, especially, when I got a business partner, I wanted to have the business part, dealt with.
Yeah.
And he really wants a degree of fairness, and the fairness is the only way we can, really kind of not be willy-nilly on the prices of stock removal knives based on we have little, extra $75 for this or, whatever, was to have a structure. Is it perfect? No, but it's the best way that we could do. And if I did one knife, I really wouldn't worry about it. But because we do so many, we do have to have some sort of metric. And that was really the only way we could come up with it. And then when we thought about our pricing based on the amount of time it takes me to make and the materials and the blah, 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 we had like a baseline, and then we were able to figure out, the cost. I mean, just some knives are easier to make. The oyster knives are much easier to make than the, K-tips or whatever.
Yeah.
Forks are easier to make than, steak knives. And there is back and forth, and there is some, trying to figure out the price per inch, but price per inch has been the only way we could really have like a metric that was like, it was logical. It was like a logical progression.
Yeah. We'll go to Mareko in a second, because I think his answer may be slightly different, because he obviously makes his own Damascus. But I think I don't think I could do it that way, simply because I do, a bunch of different knives. And I wouldn't necessarily say that the actual cost of the steel is minimal. It's all down to the time and effort that we put into these knives. And I've got one here. Let's say, for example, this little folder. If we were charged by the inch, this is, very small compared to a kitchen knife, but the amount of work that goes into it is pretty much the same with regards to time. So yeah, I don't do it by the inch. But I do it by the time basically that it would take, and I do a lot of sort of bigger batches of knives as well, particularly sort of table knives, steak knives, that kind of thing. And obviously they can come down in price if people are ordering more, simply because the way that I run things in batches, it can be quicker. I I don't really consider the materials in the costings because the materials are such a small part of it. So it wouldn't really make sense for me to do by the inch. But Mareko, who does things where he makes his own mosaic Damascus and whatever it may be, I'd imagine you would charge by the inch. What are you doing?
Yeah, so when I worked for Bob Kramer, that excuse me, that is exactly like he did. And a lot of people, not only still, but a lot of people back then also did by the inch because that was pretty common.
Yeah.
When I started, I didn't feel good about by the inch because then I was looking, all right, so if somebody wants to buy a 3.5-inch paring knife, I'm probably going to lose my ass on it because of the work that goes into making that steel and all the work that goes into grinding it. A lot of people think that because it's smaller, it's easier and because there's less material, but sometimes it can make it actually a lot more challenging because you are miniaturizing what is normally like a large chef's knife or something like that.
Yeah.
And the work can be a little bit finicky. So yeah, you're using less materials, but like you said, Craig, the material cost in the overall between a small knife and a big knife really isn't that big of a difference. And so what I came up with was what I would feel comfortable with as a base price for and made a 3.5-inch, or I guess a 3-inch paring knife my base price. So what would I feel is comfortable for me and fair to me to get paid for the work that I made for that knife. And then I also looked at the other end of the spectrum at like a 10-inch knife. And I was like, what would be fair, not only to me to be compensated, but what do I think is reasonable? What do I think the market can bear when it comes to paying for a large 10-inch custom made chef's knife? And whatever the price, that range is, you just divide that by the 7 inches in between.
Yeah, girl.
And get it, girl. And you get your prices so you have your base price that you start at. Maybe you say, $600 is solid for you for a very straightforward paring knife. Then from there you charge a price per inch. Maybe it's $75, maybe it's $125 if it's Damascus, and you have different tiers also if it's mono steel versus Damascus versus stainless steel. I would actually still charge a little bit because I guess depending on the stainless steel material, some stainless can be a similar price as carbon, but obviously it can also be a little bit more of a bear to work with depending on, everything that's involved that goes along with stainless as well. And that all comes back to what's fair compensation. What do you believe is fair compensation for your time? And so I instead of just being straight by the inch, I have a base price for my 3-inch, what I think is fair for me. And then it just goes by the inch from there up to 10 inches. And then if somebody wants something like a large 12-inch slicer or something, I use that same by the inch price between 3 and 10, and I just add a couple inches from there and say that's how much a 12-inch knife would be.
Gotcha. It's not like someone's sending me a message and they're buying 3/4 of an inch of a knife. It's the same. For me, they're different.
Just the tip.
She said.
How dare you both? Ethics. It's all. It comes from that basis of what I'm willing to. It's how much labor it takes to do it, and then we go from there. But we had to have a metric that made sense because of the variations.
Yeah.
And that's what we just decided to do. But yeah, obviously I'm just not like, no one's buying like a 2, and we charge a full tang knife is by the inch for the whole thing. And then the hidden tang knife is just the blade. And then plus the handle, and then the handle material is different. And then now Color Lab, you get an upcharge, and there's all sorts of, Tony used to say to me, he said, in some of these restaurants, you can have there's like, what is Danny Meyer used to do a hamburger, and the base hamburger was $9, but then it's $1 for the cheese, and it's $1 for the lettuce, and it's $1 for the pickles, and it's like, all of a sudden you want ketchup, it's 50 cents, and then the bun is, so that's like, it makes it kind of a little bit more of a thing.
Yeah.
Danny Meyer's Shake Shack, right?
Right. Yeah. He was his known for the Gramercy Tavern, which was Tom Colicchio's original place, which was probably one of the best restaurants in New York at the time. But yeah, Shake Shack.
Okay, cool. Okay, well, talking about charging by the inch, it's time for the Dharma Steel Knife of the Week. And what we do every week is we look through people who have tagged Dharma Steel and tagged us, if they've used the steel, they made something interesting, we'll bring them up. So I've got one here. And this is by Vandermeulen _ Bladeworks on Instagram. It's obviously a folder. And it's his first time using Dharma Steel. And this is the ladder pattern that Dharma Steel do.
Wow.
And it's pretty sweet for a folder. That's going to be a pretty cool blade. So yeah, so go take a look at his work. Vandermeulen Blade Works, handmade in Rockford, Michigan. And I think he's got like a YouTube channel and stuff as well. So yeah, so go take a look. That's a beautiful blade, and that's with the Dharma Steel ladder pattern. If you want to use Dharma Steel yourself, head on over to Dharma Steel's website, and if you use a Knife Talk 10, you'll get 10% off. So however many inches you need, however many inches are good for you, you're going to get 10% off every single inch. So yeah, head on over to Dharma Steel, and they've obviously got some beautiful, beautiful patterns there, and make yourself something very, very special.
Have mercy. That knife actually had definitely like this kind of Polynesian thing going on, with those
Oh, you see,
those
like, the
thick
tiki
lines.
face?
Yeah, there's a little tiki thing going on a little bit. Is it like
Yeah.
there's a
It's pretty
quality to that style. I love the big contrasting lines. It looks has something going on there.
It reminds
Really
me
cool.
of that, the Scream, that paint in the Scream, the face sort of stretched
Come on,
down.
man.
Reminds
Come
me
on.
of that. But art talk. Okay, shall we take the next question? I've got one here from Soren _ Smithy. What is your process for cleaning your blades right before getting it photographed? I feel like I'm always left with streaks on it. Cleaning blades before photographs. I use acetone all the time, and it almost like dissolves off then into the air. So any sort of fingerprints and stuff that you rub off, if you're using something water based, you're going to be left with streaks maybe from the water. But with acetone, it'll dissolve off into the ether, and it seems to work really well for me.
But I get streaks from acetone.
Really?
Yeah, maybe
I
it's
don't.
I get like a film, like these streaky films from acetone. I love acetone. Acetone's my favorite, but
Right.
like it definitely after I use acetone, I got to use Windex or soap and water.
Oh
clean
wow.
towel.
I use
Yeah, because I get like these fucked up streaks. Annoys
So
the
yeah,
shit.
so I use soap and water first, dry it thoroughly, but then I'll use a microfiber cloth with acetone, and then just rub down the blade, and it seems to work well for me. Mareko, what are you doing?
I mean, we talked about a long time ago, me using like a paste wax to finish. I've played with a lot of stuff, and I kind of always gravitate back to what is it called? The flag paste wax. I really like it. It polishes out by hand very easily, very cleanly. Doesn't leave any funny streaks. It's pretty hardy stuff, and that's how I finish out any of my knives before I start taking any photos.
Cool.
Damascus almost is a little bit more forgiving of streaks than like
for
a
sure.
satin
Yeah.
finish. Like the satin finish knives I do, it's like streak city, and you don't see it until you got in the sunlight.
Right.
Yeah.
But like the Damascus has that, has a little bit of. Here we go. Sith Bad Boy says I wipe off. He's in the chat. You can obviously, if you
That's
want.
Laramie Jackson.
Is that Laramie Jackson? I
Sure
wipe
is.
off with acetone and wipe down with a Vivaplane, no pattern paper towel. Vivaplane is a paper towel company,
Viva.
I think.
Yeah,
Viva.
Viva plane, right?
I thought my dyslexia saw something different when I first read it.
Yeah, I find if
Wipe
I
it down
use
with
a
the vagina plane. That's what I thought. I fucking saw.
paper towel, I'll get tiny little things that you won't see with your eye, but when you take a photograph and you zoom in, you'll see these little tiny, especially if you've got any sort of engraving or anything in it, it really sticks out. So yeah, I tend to use pretty much like Laramie does there, but I'll use a microfiber cloth just because no bits will come off basically.
Sure.
But if you get a good finish on your blade, you shouldn't really have any streaks anyway. And you know how you can get a good finish on your blade?
How?
Well, if you use the #1 sandpaper in the world, made by Indasa, Rhino Wet, which is what most knife makers are using because it's the best stuff. It just lasts a bit longer. It's great, and you can get a variety of different grits, and it's going to save you time. And if it's saving you time, what's it saving you?
Money.
Oh, Jesus
Money.
Christ.
Money.
Jesus.
You
It's
don't
saving you
normally ask
money.
us questions in the middle of the read, for Christ's sake.
And we can save you money too. If you head on over to texasfarriersupply.com, they actually sell Rhino Wet, as well as a bunch of other stuff for knife makers. They have a whole section for knife makers. Go have a look what they've got. Use Knife Talk 10 and you will get 10% off the whole order, not just your Rhino Wet. So yeah, make sure you do that. texasfarriersupply.com. Fiery Ice Forge. Oh, that's the wrong one. Sorry. Jason Glover is in the chat, and he just said, yeah, Rhino Wet is amazing. And we find we hear that a lot from a lot of our listeners. They thank us for sort of recommending Rhino Wet because it's great stuff. So yeah, head on over, texasfarriersupply.com, fill up your basket with Rhino Wet and whatever else you need from them. Cool. Okay, shall we call it a day? Do you think? Or should we take
Whatever
maybe
you
one
want.
or two more questions?
Let's do one more question.
One more question,
And then
okay.
this one comes from Jaska. Jaska says, "Hey, cuties. I've been a maker of things for as long as I can remember. 4 years ago, I entered the corporate world to ensure that I can provide for my family. I work a high-stress, unfulfilling 8 to 5 job that has me working more overtime without additional pay to make it worthwhile most of the time. Jaska's miserable. This leaves me with a limited time to share with my loved ones and even less time to focus on what I really want to do to further develop myself, my love for knife making and making shit in general. Long story short, it was a long story. Still long. Jaska, I'm with you, Jaska. I'm just fooling around. As a developing and fairly new knife maker, where do you find the time to spend on your craft without feeling guilty that you're neglecting part of your other life? Really appreciate the show and the amount of time and effort that each one of you put back to inspire people like me. The world needs more people like you. What do you do? How do you handle making and your family and the job that you hate? How do you do it all, guys?
It's difficult, isn't it, to do everything you need to be doing, you know? I think out of the three of us, I certainly spend a lot less time in the shop than you know, out of the three of us anyway. Simply because there's a lot going on where, you know, we seem to be forever moving houses, and, you know, with kids and stuff. I'm the sort of primary sort of caregiver to the kids because my wife works full time. So even though I'm trying to work full time doing what I do, I'm not really a full time knife maker because I'm looking after kids, you know, most of the time. That does change very, very soon. And I suppose it's those things that, you know, I know that the kids will be going to school soon, so then I can get back to being full time. So I know this is temporary, so it's not that much of a problem. But you know, for you know, the guys out there who have full time jobs, 8 to 5, and then they have a family, you know, I think I've got it bad. But geez, it must be really difficult for you to juggle that, and maybe to juggle that sort of guilt as well that you then feel when you're not working, that you maybe should be thinking you should be spending time with your family when you know you want to be doing something else. But I think you need to find that balance because you need to be happy, and because otherwise, what's the point in spending time with your family if you're not, you know, being fulfilled elsewhere and being happy, I suppose. So it is really difficult. And with regards to, you know, how do you solve it? There's no real answer there, is there? I'm afraid. What do you think, Mareko?
I feel like every answer is going to be different because that balancing act is going to be different for everybody in their individual situations. I think though, like especially with a stressful job, or even if your job isn't stressful, like we gotta make time for ourselves, even if we have family. And maybe it's a situation where like he could bring the kid into the shop too. I don't know did he mention how old the kids were? No. But you know, I think we all gotta have our little side thing that helps kind of that gives us additional purpose or meaning or some sort of sense of accomplishment and achievement. And you know, maybe it's playing guitar, maybe it's painting, maybe it's knife making. If it's really that important to you, then and maybe during your normal day you don't have time for it because between work, you know, maybe you're starting the day out helping with the kids, and then you head off to work, you come home, you're helping with the kids, and then at the end of the day you're gassed. But if you really want to have that time, you'll find it either earlier in the day, before anybody's up, or maybe a little bit later in the evening after everybody goes to bed. You get your time with the kids, you get your time with the wife, she goes to bed, and then or your partner, and then you take a few hours. Now, later in the evening, obviously it's going to be hard to be grinding and make a bunch of noise, even if it's in a detached garage in a neighborhood or whatever. But, I don't know, you can find the time for it. And hopefully, just like Craig's wife understood him being hungover as fuck this morning, um, hopefully you get the support of your partner to try to help carve out some time for yourself, even if it's only 2 hours,
Mm.
a week. Like, it's something, like
Yeah.
it's something, because we all need that something that we suffer a shitty job for. You support your family. Like, there's a reason to suffer that kind of job, to help support your family, keep a roof over your head, food in your belly, but also having a little bit of a reward outside of those. Obviously all those things are beautiful, but something for yourself personally is also important, I think.
Nice. Thoughts, Jeffrey?
I think I was thinking about two people specifically who have made big sacrifices in order to do it all. One is Chris Zepp, Make Everything Shop. I don't think there's anybody who has figured out a way to try to do it all. I mean, he tries to do it all. Amazing shop. He's got a full-time job. He works nights. He works weekends. He works, he does whatever it takes to get time in to do what he wants to do, plus all the other nonsense he does. And then another one is our friend Ben Snur. Ben runs a whole ranch. It's a big job. And then he takes his, has dinner with his family, takes his, helps put the kids to bed, and then he goes to the shop and he works all night. He makes his hammers at night. He's not making them during the day. And I think that there comes a time, and I know that when I had my shop at my house, I had a basement and I had a shed. I was definitely much more aware of the time I had free, 15 minutes here to glue something up or 10 minutes there to tape something up. And then I also was conscious of, all right, I can't start grinding at 6 a.m, but I can do this. It was I became very, very conscious of my time and what I could do and couldn't do. So it allowed me to, like, I wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning, I clean the shop up, and then all of a sudden everyone's got to go. And all of a sudden now at 8:30 or so, I can start to make a little bit of noise. And then I was consciously, figuring out things I could do in the time I had. But the most important thing was, during pandemic, I used to work Saturdays. And then when pandemic started, I stopped. And I started spending time with my family. And that was so much more important. And I now don't work weekends in the shop because I'm getting more time with my kid. Plus, my wife works weekends sometimes. My kid works weekends sometimes. So, like, getting to, like, this Sunday is the only time we're all going to be together until my kid starts school. So we're all going to go to the beach. We're stopping everything. We're going to the beach on Sunday. It's because my kids, the three of us aren't going to have time together at all. So I'm very conscious of those times and then thinking about it. But there are sacrifices needs to be made. And I think that there are more ways than you realize that you can, do the things you want to do.
Yeah. And if you want really badly, you'll carve time somewhere. It's one of those
And
things.
if you're carving anything, what grinder are you using?
Good point. Tell us, Jeff. What grinder would you use?
I'm using a Broadbeck Ironworks 2x72 grinder from broadbeckironworks.com. And
Seamless.
If you go to broadbeckironworks.com and you put in promo code Knife Talk 10, you're going to get 10% off your entire order. That includes the grinder and the VFD. That's going to include, because let's face it, everybody, ladies and germs, don't be cheap. Get the VFD. You'll thank me later. No one's ever said the biggest mistake I got was getting a VFD. Nobody ever. Nobody ever said buying an Even Heat was a bad decision, and no one ever said getting a VFD was a bad decision. So there, Jason Glover got his Broadbeck Ironworks 2x72 grinder. You can go to broadbeckironworks.com. Promo code Knife Talk 10. Get the attachments. All the attachments they have. They have all the slack belt arms, and then they have the contact wheels, and then they got the integral fuller attachment, and they got the attachment so you can turn your grinder into a disc sander. I mean, come on, man. Come on, it's enough already. Get yourself a Broadbeck Ironworks, and then you'll also save on shipping because it's in packing crates and USPS flat rate packaging. You're in business. So BroadbeckIronworks.com, promo code Knife Talk 10. Bingo, bango, bongo. That's it.
That's a show. Strong ending. Right. Okay. Thank you all for watching if you're in the chat, and for listening if you're listening from Monday onwards. Thank you all so much. We shall speak to you all very, very soon.
This show is brought to you by The Makery, the podcast network for makers.
One hour 35. Wow.
I'll tell you why I like this bit. The bit is good because I'm trying to make us have a conversation as opposed to just, we get questions from the listeners and some of them are great, but we end up with like an answer from each of us instead of having a conversation. Like we don't pose questions to each other. So I want to pose more things to kind of create a conversation, because otherwise
works.
we need to freshen things up sometimes. And I think it's fun. And people like banana talk is.
It's become a thing. No, I like it. Like you said, it's a good sort of discussion, and it makes you think. It's not necessarily always knife related, but it may be business related or something. So it's pretty good.
And feel free to bring in your own as well, your own ethical dilemmas that we can talk about. Because a lot of it's also like, I listen to these podcasts and everyone gives these, like I said, these saccharine answers that are like, what you're supposed to say because you're worried about what people are going to think of or say or think of you. And it's just like, that's not really what people want to hear. People want to hear you shoving up bananas up your butt.
Exactly.
Like that, and admitting to how many it'll take before you do.
Jason Glover is still in the chat. Call me Mammoth Creek Knives. I have very few followers on Instagram. This is a shameless plug. Now, we've never called somebody out from the chat before, but you're close to being thrown off the show, Jason. We have rules for these kinds of things. I miss the call-ins and the cut-off music.
You know what that's the biggest problem is because we can't count on people to have good internet connections, and it's just like that's the worst. That's the most brutal part. Yeah. See, that's why we got to take that $200,000 a year. Show the producers and writers, and oh my god,
if only. Yeah,
those are going to happen again. I'm convinced. I mean, I think that's going to happen again. I think that it's too much of a good revenue generator. Like, the way they run ads through the podcasts and stuff like that. I think that someone's going to figure out a way, like, we're going to look at we're going to see how many you have, and then like basically the Makery network, but like on a bigger scale.
Yeah, I think so, because more and more people are listening to podcasts because it's that perfect while you're traveling in the car or whatever, you can still be entertained, but your eyeballs are still keeping things safe. Yeah, makes sense. What I wanted to chat about, did you guys listen to the Joe Rogan episode where they had the North Korean girl on?
No. What was it all about?
Wow. I've listened to it in chunks over time, and I've listened to the end of it today. So basically, she was brought up in North Korea, and managed to escape, and now she's in America, and she's telling the story of how it really is there. It is unbelievable. I mean, I rarely listen to the Joe Rogan shows now, to be honest with you, because most of the time he's just getting drunk with his buddies or whatever, and I don't bother. But I saw so many people in my feed saying, it was like the show. If you can listen to one show, listen to this one. It is horrific what was going on, and what still goes on there now. It's unbelievable. But worth. Yeah, it's a long show. I think it's like 2.5 hours, but it's worth listening. I've listened to it in chunks, and it's just heartbreaking. What this girl went through, and the fact that so many people are still going through this now. It's crazy times. Crazy. Did you watch Ted Lasso?
No. Oh, I still haven't. I got all these other shows that I'm too embarrassed to tell you I watch that I'm trying to get through.
My Little Pony.
No, not far off though.
Love Island and all that shit.
I do like Cocaine Cowboys. I'm still on Cocaine Cowboys.
Yeah,
that's really good.
Nice.
I'll tell you what I'm watching. I'm fucking stuck on the goddamn Titans, the Teen Titans, not the cartoon, but like they did like a live action Titans. I'm a huge Dick Grayson fan. I think the Dick Grayson Robin is probably the most underrated and most important character in the development of a character in comic books. So like the person who plays it actually does a great job. So I'm embarrassed to say that I watched the Titans. You know who Dick Grayson is?
Nope,
Craig?
never
Right.
heard of it. No.
Do you know who Batman is?
I know who Batman is.
Okay.
Yes.
You know who Robin is?
I do. Yes.
The original Robin is Dick Grayson.
Ah,
so they
right, okay.
created this character, and as he grew older, he was just like, "This is fucking crazy. What am I doing with this maniac? Dress up like a fruitcake. What am I doing?" He leaves Disillusion, starts the Teen Titans with other sidekicks. Like in the comic books, he starts with all these other sidekicks, and then they start to become like the Justice League of America Junior. They're all like these bitter sidekicks. Are just
I've
like
checked out already,
well,
Jeff.
Just listen to me. Just listen to me. The concept.
I'm a grown man. I don't. Comics don't interest me.
Listen, you ape banana motherfucker. Just listen to me for a second. I'm gonna tell you why it's interesting. What's interesting about it is because they created this. This the one character that they've created. He's evolved throughout time to be an interesting character. That's all. I won't.
Is it a true story? Is it a
No,
true story?
fucking Robin. It's fucking Robin. So fine. Fine. All right.
I'm winding you up.
I never knew the backstory for the Teen Titans. I do remember watching that when I was a kid, the cartoon. But I've seen that the Titan advertise. Was that on Netflix or Amazon?
HBO Max. We're gonna be getting rid of that soon. We're going to be we're going to be getting a lot of stuff. We're going to be reshuffling our subscriptions because we're looking into getting some. So we're going to have to do some shuffling.
They mount up, don't they? All those subscriptions to things. They
like,
creep up on you. He's like,
and then you feel guilty. But the original comic from the 80s was incredible because it was very, very dark. It was very dark. But regardless, so I'm stuck on that goddamn thing. I'm embarrassed to say, but we had a talk getting back into health, and people are asking about the colonoscopy. We've been having my wife, God bless her, she knows how to navigate. We've been taking advantage of our healthcare. She's got decent healthcare, so we're taking advantage of it. Plus, we're coming up on the 21st anniversary of 9/11. We sucked in the air from the world, the ground zero for the months that it was, we were downwind of it for a long time.
Yeah.
So I went to I'm getting my eyes checked. They thought I had glaucoma. I dodged that bullet. I went to go get my blood work done. Everything's looking good. I'm at the lowest I've been weight-wise in a long, long time. And I got 20 more pounds to go before I'm really happy, but everything's good. So I went to get the colonoscopy. And in the next episode of the Full Blast podcast, I talk about the entire thing. And when it was all over, I was told that they had to, when you're out and they're up there, they don't wake you up and say, "Is it okay if I do this?" They're up there. They fucking, it's like they got the banana with the claw on it, and they fucking give it to you. So they removed 4 polyps for biopsy. So I had to wait. And the crazy thing was, and this is how about American healthcare, which is you cannot afford to be sick in this country. It's too expensive. So our insurance approved this guy, I shouldn't say this guy. It sounded like he went to some back alley colonoscopy thing. It was like an office. They approved the consultation. The guy said, "Okay, let's do it." It was approved. I had the whole thing done, and then after everything was done, the insurance company said, "We're denying this procedure."
Oh wow!
So we got a bill for $6,000.
Jeez.
And the reason why is because the office that I went to, the original office was approved. The same office did the procedure under a different LLC. So the name was changed. So it was like Dr. somebody approved. Then it's Dr. somebody consulting.
Oh.
And then that wasn't approved. So my wife is just like, "Yo, you can't do this. You can't do this. If this is the case, you have to tell us before. You have to tell us beforehand." Yeah. So Fire Ice and Steels, he says, He says, I was gonna say $2,000. Fire Ben Seacrest might be getting like discount colonoscopies. I like white glove service colonoscopies. I don't do the Knife Talk 10 for my colonoscopies. I want to pay full price. I want high level. I want rose petals. I want the fucking red carpet treatment. I want white glove service when I get invasive surgery in my colon. Okay, thank you. You go ahead and get your bargain basement BJ's Club colonoscopy. I'm with you. So it's been a week of like stress because we were thinking, we just paid for this roof. We have a few other things we have to take care of. And we're just like, how the fuck are we supposed? And my wife is like, she's like, I deal with these goddamn people all the time. They are scum and ruthless.
Yeah.
We finally got the okay. The company, my wife called up. She's like, look, this is some giant bullshit. And we call the lab up. You're going to have to change the way you bill because all of a sudden, and I'm an employee of this, this healthcare. This is some bullshit. You can't do this. So that was the story was that it was W.R. Crumb said I should have put in Knife Talk 10 when I put the checkout. Yes, thank you. The insurance company if you use this insurance company, you take Knife Talk 10. But it is stunning because I also saw the bill when I had my eyes checked, and it was like another $800 just to get my eyes checked. You cannot afford to be sick in this country, and this is the biggest problem. I didn't go in because I felt something. I didn't have the fucking guy said to me, he's like, are you in here? Are you in here for bleeding? I'm like, no, I'm not in here for bleeding. Do you have any problems? Like, no, I don't have any problems. I get a message from the insurance company says you're at 45, you should be getting a colonoscopy. So I'm just doing cancer screening like I'm supposed to, like you're telling me to.
Yeah.
And there's no there's no education in this country about preventative health care. But then there is no way that you would, I had no idea. It's not like I felt the polyps. I had no idea. But they had to take them out. So all of a sudden I didn't get the $2,000, the Ben Seacrest $2,000 special. I had to get I had the removal and the biopsy. Yeah. And it was just surprising to me that this country as listeners, as people in this, you got to start being healthy. You just got to start eating healthy and eating right because there's shit that's out of your control that you just can't, you're not going to be ready to. And I got to go back and get another one in 3 years. So thankfully, as of today, I got the message from my wife saying, you can congratulate me because I got it squared away with the insurance company. But it's like, how the fuck do you do that?
You shouldn't have to do that, should you? It's crazy.
It's so hilarious. It's hilarious that your insurance company was like, hey, you should probably go get this procedure done. Yeah, that doctor's good. Oh wait, we're not going to cover that. Sorry.
After the fact. Now the office, and I wasn't a Karen. I wanted to be Karen. But I gave them the first time I was there, they took my driver's license and insurance card and they forgot to give it back to me. I didn't realize until I got back home. And then they got my telephone number wrong and they tried to call me a couple times and they were like, we tried calling you. I'm like, what's the number you gave me? I'm like, well, you fucking wrote my number down wrong. So there's like a lot of back office like bullshit, but it's like, if you can't navigate through these things, somebody would be like, all right, well, I guess I got to pay $6,000 without any recourse. It's crazy. Crazy.
Madness. That sounds crazy to me because, being in the UK where you wouldn't have to pay anything and over here insurance is dirt cheap and it's provided anyway. So, but yeah, to have to pay for, procedures like that, it's crazy. So let's go back to...
Jason Glover in the thing said, I can't afford insurance. I'm going to die one day. Well, yes. I'm sorry to tell you this, but without insurance and without being able to, you're not going to just die. You're going to go into debt.
It's going to be slow and painful.
It might not be painful. If they said to me that these polyps are relatively normal, but in 3 years, they would have been a problem. So like if I didn't get this procedure done and I waited, then I'm fucked.
Yeah. Wow. So that was the biopsy result that the things are normal.
You want to know the biopsy results?
Give us.
It was scary. Results. It's still scary.
Yeah. So you've actually had official results now?
I had, and we're going to have to deal with it.
Okay.
You want to know what